Hey YouTube, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife discussion for you and a bit of a comparison. I have two of the most budget-friendly knives that you can find out there, okay? This is the Tangram Progression, Dirk Pinkerton design. Tangram is the sort of budget line from Kaiser. Here I have the Gonzo, actually it's the Firebird FH11. Firebird is sort of a rebranding of Gonzo, I guess. Both of these are pretty affordable knives. Both of these are knives that, you know, have gained a fair bit of attention. And, you know, I don't know, well, do they deserve it? Do they not deserve it? So there's a couple things I'd like to do here. First, I'm going to compare these two knives and kind of come out with which one I think is better. But at the same time, I'm also going to sort of have a discussion about whether or not it's worth buying these knives for the $30 or whether it's better off to just spend the $40 or $45 and step up to something that that's going to give you a little bit better performance. All right. Now, what I want to do with that is have you guys weigh in the comments about how you feel about that. All right. So maybe you say, look, Kevin, it's great that you can find cheap stuff. And I'm a fan of value. I'm sure a lot of you are fans of value. I certainly am. That said, all right, I don't buy the giant box of 50 cent a pair socks. I don't. They're not comfortable. Your feet are going to stink. They're almost 100% made of plastic. I would rather spend a little bit of extra money and get something that I can be comfortable in and get better performance out of. Okay, so I'd love to hear where you guys come in on that in the comments down below. Having gotten that out of the way, let's go ahead and start working our way through our comparison on these two knives. And oh, let me say, no Amazon links for these two. It makes sense because generally these would be available, but they're just, one, the Amazon.com price for this is not great. Like, this is not an expensive knife, but it's like almost 40 bucks for this on Amazon, which you can find it better. This guy is just out of stock right now. So the Tangram knives on Amazon, you know, that's generally the way to go unless you're in Canada. Then you have to go to AliExpress. I almost feel a little bit dirty saying that, but that's the way it is right now. And I'm not going to put a link to AliExpress. Sorry, guys. I will put a link to White Mountain Knives because I'm going to talk about a couple of other knives. And with my 10% discount, there'll be a pretty attractive price point from White Mountain Knives, almost comparable to these. Okay, let's get back into our discussion of these two, beginning with the size, weight, and carry. So look, both of these are about 8 inches. This one's 8 1/8. This one is just a hair under a 7. It's actually a little more than 7 7/8. Both blades are basically 3.5 inches. This is a hair under, so it's like 3 7/16. This guy's 3.5. Closed length is about 4.5 inches on both. Again, there's a very slight difference. This guy is like 4 5/8, and this guy is like 4.5 or 4 7/16 or something. Even the weight on these two is very close. 3.9 ounces on the Tangram and 4.1 ounces on the Firebird. So, in terms of size, weight, and carry, and how comfortably they carry in pocket and go in and out of pocket, guys, I have to say this is a tie. You know, even before making this, just to kind of double check, I slid these in and out of pocket a few times to kind of, you know, reaffirm my thinking on this. And really, I can't declare a winner here. In addition to just getting ready for this video, I've also been carrying these on and off for a few weeks now, and really they're very, very comparable, and I can't call it one a winner. So in terms of how they carry in pocket and what you're getting for what you have to, you know, the sacrifice of weight and size you make, these guys are a tie as far as I'm concerned. All right, let's move on to something that isn't a tie, and that is going to be the blade. So we have here D2 steel in a saber grind in a satin finish. Over here we have 440 Akuto with a stonewash finish and a hollow grind. Now, both of these are pretty reasonable budget steels. The one thing I will say is D2 from China, there's a bit of a question of what you're going to get because D2 is a description of sort of a steel recipe, okay? This is D2 steel means that it has a certain percentage of vanadium and carbon and chromium and all of this, okay? The 440 Akuto is a slightly upgraded version of 440, and it's actually pretty good. For a budget steel, yeah, you know, it will perform better than, you know, maybe some of your other Chinese alphabet steels or the typical 440 you'd get on a Gonzo or something like that. And so the 440 Akuto is a pretty nice steel. Not that the D2 here isn't, I don't have a real problem with it, But there's a couple things that I think make a difference to me in these knives. First off, D2 is not stainless, and I dare say someone who's going out looking for a $30 knife is not interested in being careful about maintaining that knife. So, you know, that extra savings, but getting a steel that's not stainless, that I think is worth thinking about. The other thing is this has a hollow grind, and I definitely have a love for hollow grinds. I find you get great performance and a really good balance of strength. So for those reasons, I've got to give the win here to the Tangram. I do like this blade a little bit better. Not that there's a massive difference between them, but this one does just edge out the Gonzo by a small margin. Moving on to the action, lockup and deployment. You can see, hold on, there we go. Both of these are liner locks. This one has nested liners, which is a nice touch. Now that's kind of for the construction part of the discussion. Both of these are liner locks though. Both of them are on bearings. Couple little things here though. The Tangram, the detent is very nice. It's pretty snappy. The Firebird is definitely smoother though. It really, really is. And the other thing that drives me a little bit crazy about the Tangram and why it's going to lose some points is the detent ball. Now, see, the blade is now contacting the detent ball and I've got to push it down. So you're kind of fighting with this blade a little bit when you open and close it. I've had it for a while and I'm pretty good at it, but the lock bar is a little hard to access. And then when you do access it, you've got now the detent ball there is hitting the lock bar, which is rather annoying. So for all of those reasons, the Gonzo gets it. It's easy to lock up. I mean, it's easy to unlock. It flips reasonably well, although I wish the detent were a little bit stronger, and it's definitely smoother. Okay, so pretty straightforward there. The Gonzo is just more comfortable and a little bit smoother, so it wins in terms of lockup and deployment. Both of these are on bearings, and they do lose a few points for being on bearings. You know, knife that's on bearings, it does introduce the potential for, you know, some gunk and some problems that require some cleaning and maintenance. And again, for a $30 knife, I don't know how much maintenance people are going to want to do. Finally, let's talk about construction. So this guy is laminated carbon fiber. You can also get it in G10. This is very heavily textured G10. I do like the fact that these liners are nested. That's always a nice touch. These ones are not. And in terms of just the way these two are put together, I really don't have a strong preference either way. You know, I'm not going to say, you know, one of these is just a piece of junk and the other one is just amazing. Both of them are totally fine for their price point, and in fact, even a little bit better than you would expect for their price point. So I can't say much about that. The one difference here that will matter to some of you is you can see this is drilled and tapped for a 4-way positionable clip. This is a single position clip, deep carry versus only deepish carry. And so again, to me, that's not a huge deal. I don't really care how much of my knife is showing out of my pocket. But I do care about how a knife feels in hand. And when I'm using these, I will say that the Gonzo is just a little slicker. Not a lot. Okay, but the texturing on this G10, the jimping on the thumb ramp is just a little more positive on the Tangram. And in preparing for this video, a couple of nights ago, we had tacos, and I purposely cut all the vegetables with these two knives, kind of switching back and forth to see which I preferred. And I did find I liked the Tangram in hand just a little bit more. I've done some other things with them as well, and neither one of them is uncomfortable. One of the things I always try to do is sort of some carving and some whittling in really hard wood that requires you to really push. And I didn't find either one of them uncomfortable. I just found the Tangram a little more positive in terms of traction. So I've got to give the points for ergonomics to the Tangram. And so overall, I'm going to declare the Tangram a winner in this comparison, but not by a huge amount. And I could see conceivably how someone, you know, another reviewer may do this same comparison and disagree with me. All right. Perhaps in different, you know, circumstances, if this was the G10 handle or something like that, maybe I would be feeling different about this. All right, so Moving on, I want to finish off by bringing in a couple of other knives. By the way, these two knives I will throw in, do I have an Amazon link for these two? Actually, yeah, I'll throw in a couple of links to these knives down below, because this is something I really want you to consider. If you're looking really heavily at the Tangram or the Gonzo, you know, they're not bad. But to me, I would go with either one of these two knives over either one of these two. I really would. The Bird is, the ergonomics on this are outstanding. I absolutely love the way this knife feels in hand. I love the BD1 steel. This gets quite a bit of carry time for me. And, you know, I think these are like 44 bucks. By the way, if you're in Canada, I apologize. I could not find this for a very good price in Canada, like 70 bucks. So this is one of those knives where, you know, it's not a flipper. I don't think CBSA is going to have a huge issue with it. I think either one of these knives, if you're a Canadian viewer, you're much better off ordering these from the States. And I would go to White Mountain Knives because they have a great track record in terms of shipping stuff in. Okay, so the way that these two break down is, yeah, I prefer the Tangram a little more than the Gonzo, but I prefer either one of these over these. And you can get a Rat Model 1, even in the D2 version, for like only a few dollars more than this. Okay, and depending on where you're shopping, maybe only a couple dollars more. This knife, again, I think these are like 44 bucks on Blade HQ. They're 50 bucks, 50 something on White Mountain Knives. I didn't check Knife Center. I didn't check a few other places. The one thing I will say is, to my poor Canadian viewers, yeah, we should have a little pity party, because it's hard to find good prices on any of these. And the Rat Model 1, I found stupid prices. Okay, Rat Model 1, Amazon.com, 30 bucks. All right. Amazon.ca, like $70. That's insanity. Okay, so I've got to put that little bit of a gripe in there at the end. Okay, so there you go, guys. That's my overall discussion here. So you can clearly kind of see where I come down on this. I asked whether I thought it was better to spend a little more and get a little more performance, or whether, you know, the budget option is the way to go. Let me say, both of these are doing a pretty good job for 30 bucks. Okay, they are. But to me, anyway, I feel like if someone asked me what budget knife would you recommend, I'm going to say the Rat Model 1 or the Bird Raven pretty well every time. What I'll probably do is try to talk them into stepping up into like a Cold Steel, Code 4, or Broken Skull, which, you know, are, you know, around 65 bucks or something like that. But still, these are great knives. So there you go, guys. That's my discussion. I'd love to hear your comments down below. What are your thoughts? Do you think I'm crazy? Do you have a Tangram and you go, Kevin, I would take my Tangram over the Rat 1 any day of the week? I can totally get that. By the way, I can see how some people might find the Bird a little bit ugly. Anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to use those links down below, and we will talk to you soon.